Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today, man, I just love talking to people from all over the country, but specifically from the South. The South, if you haven't ever heard somebody speak from the South, especially somebody with a nice, deep, low voice, which isn't me, I've got a higher voice, but this guy, he has got a nice voice. His name's Philip Arthers, and he's an investor, entrepreneur, CPA, evangelist for acquisition entrepreneurship. So one of the things that you can do, I mean, there's 1,000 ways to become an entrepreneur. There's 1,000 things to do in the space, but we're going to specifically talk about maybe you just want to buy a business that already exists, take it from where it is to a little bit better and resell it, almost like you'd flip a real estate property, but do it with businesses. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of both? He also works in the real estate field, so we can have a little bit targeted conversation around that. But I'm just excited to have the conversation. Like, learning from people is really why we're here, why we listen to this show, and why I do the show is so I can learn. And hopefully that this is beneficial to you. So Philip, thank you so much for coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule to share some of your gold nuggets with us. Go ahead, let us know your story, where you started, how you got to where you are, why each of those steps were important, and where you're headed.
Thank you, Samuel. I appreciate you having me on today. And I'm excited to share my story with your listeners. And so, just a little bit about me. I grew up in South Alabama, and my mom had me at a really young age. She was 17 when she had me. We lived in a trailer park for a little while, and ate ramen noodles and SpaghettiOs every day, so that's my childhood, my upbringing. So, and then my dad joined the military, and from there, they went to school at Auburn University. Actually, I'm an alumni of Auburn University as well, but grew up in Auburn, and they ended up getting good jobs, and I saw their hard work ethic and everything that they did to all the struggles and everything to get to where they are now. My mom's actually currently a CFO of Auburn University's athletics department. So she's made she's done a really good job growing her career. So, and I've witnessed that, right, from the time she was a teenager to where she is now. So, she's really left a legacy in my life just of what she accomplished in her own. So she did her undergrad in accounting, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college. I just know that my parents always preached, you're going to college. So decided to go to college. I've always been interested in business. Me and my cousin used to, when we were little kids, some kids play, cops and robbers. I was playing, let's pretend we have a business. That was the way I grew up playing. So knew I always wanted to do something in business. Started school at Auburn University and realized that I was pretty good at accounting, and my mom was an accountant. So that's the path I took. Did accounting there, got my master's in accountancy a couple years later while I was working full time. And I've worked for a couple of the largest CPA firms in the country. Worked with one doing taxation and realized that tax is not for me. And then, it was rough. And then went in to do an audit and then grew up into the consulting role. So the last CPA firm I worked for, I was the leader of the turnaround group. Turnaround basically is you are hired by banks or could be a court or whoever to actually turn around a failing company. So a lot of times, like a bank would like Wells Fargo would say, hey, we've got this company, we've lent some money to them, they're not paying, or they're in trouble, or there's something in their financial statements that's not quite right. We'll go in there and investigate and potentially hire, fire, sell off the company, sell off the assets, whatever. It's a pretty difficult job. The economy was doing pretty well the last little while when I was at the firm, and less turnaround work, and there was more like transaction advisory work. So I actually got to help a lot with helping clients do buy side due diligence. And man, when I was doing that, I was like, this is great. I love this. The one thing I didn't love is that I was, I mean, I love helping people. Don't get me wrong. I love helping people and helping the clients buy other businesses and keep them from making bad decisions. But something was missing, and I really wanted to do it myself. So anyway, at the time I had this really large client, and I'd helped them build out a turnaround plan. And they actually hired me on full time as their CFO. And let's see, I was with them a little less than 6 years. The company just sold here recently. We grew the company about 500. Well, the EBITDA, the cash flow, bottom line, grew that 560% in less than 6 years. So major growth. It was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of 80-hour weeks, a lot of transition. But anyway, so I went through that, and so now speaking to legacy, I think it was a couple years back. I'm in the middle of one of these 80-hour weeks, and I was like, man, this is not what I want for my life. I do not want to work 80 hours a week, because I would wake up in the morning and start working almost immediately, and then I would eat dinner with my kids and wife for about an hour in the evenings, and then I'd go back in and work. And I had several nights where I worked through the night because we were trying to grow this company. And at the very beginning, it was kind of a dumpster fire. There was a lot to fix. And anyway, so I knew that is not what I wanted for my life. Actually, one of your recent guests, Cody Hoffheim, he actually reached out to him, and he coached me in real estate and how to buy real estate at a deep discount, and then you can either fix it and flip it or wholesale it. So got into that business while I was working full time, and my wife helped tremendously. So I'm gonna give her a lot of credit for that, but she helped a lot. We built a solid team and started automating that wholesaling business. And that's really helped me get to a point to where I was able to, we sold, the company I was with sold, and I was able to leave very comfortable, had enough money saved up to pay for 6 months of my living expenses and just support us while I built out my coaching program, and while I built out a team to help buy businesses. So that's a little bit about my background and what led me to this point. Everything I've done, I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to do consulting, and I've always wanted to own my own business. So this gives me an opportunity to do that. And in doing this, I mean, I'm with my kids a lot more than I ever have been, and they're seeing what it takes to run a business. So I'm hoping to leave a lasting legacy for them as well. So, so it led me to this day, and something that, I just wanted to share with your listeners. A lot of people really want to own a business, and I meet a lot of people that want to start up a business, but I'm here to tell you that startup is the hard way. Okay. 90% of startups ultimately fail. Okay. But on the business acquisition side, you will have about a 95+% success rate on a business acquisition. So I was like, well, startups got to be the way, right? Well, you look at the numbers a little bit further, and baby boomers are retiring right now. I think I heard the other day it was like 10 to 11,000 per day of baby boomers are retiring. So I started digging a little further and realized that over 35-40% or more of baby boomers businesses are profitable. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So that's just fired me up. I said, there's a lot of opportunity right now. And if you're out there today and you're listening and you're wanting something different for your life, you don't want to be burnt out and working 80 hours a week, I would highly encourage you looking at buying a business, because when you buy a business, you become an instant CEO and you have an instant cash flow, right? If you buy it the right way, you could even buy it with little to no money out of pocket, right? You could raise money, you could negotiate seller financing, because talk to any M&A advisor out there, they'll tell you that 80% of businesses that try to sell never sell. They fall flat. They don't have anybody that has the money or the want or the ability to buy their business. So you come in, you might find them on a right day, and they might seller finance the entire thing so they can get some sort of annuity over 5 or 10 years, right? Pay them out 5-10 years at a 5 or 6% interest rate. It's a good deal. And then you're basically paying for your equity in the business through the operations of the business, right? So get in there and start making a salary immediately and start improving the business and growing that business into something bigger. And that's what I'm working on right now. And that's what I want to encourage other people out there to do and take advantage of. This is the modern day gold rush. If you could miss the boat if you don't get on this, because you've got about a few years. I mean, within the next 10 years, I mean, the opportunity is going to go tremendously. It's going to go down, because right now is the time. So, if you're thinking, hey, I'd love to own a business, what do I need to do? Well, try to get some management experience, some sales experience, learn how to read a financial statement, things like that. There's a lot of things really to gear up to be able to buy a business, but it's a great time to start right now.
Sure. So I want to talk about a few of these things because I think they're important, and I want to dig deeper into specifically the business, buying a business versus real estate involvement, levels between the two. But first, let's revisit your past a little bit. I think this is so crucial to understand that where people are starting out, where are people starting out in their journey before they become wealthy or before they choose to live their passion? Because sometimes you become wealthy living your passion, and other times you just have fun living your passion and you never really make a lot of money, and it's okay for both, right? Don't have to make a lot of money. This isn't a life. I don't think is really a money grab. Like, it's not like let's chase as much money and try and see how much money we can get. Life is about adding as much value as you can in the way that you really feel you can add the most value. And then you get compensated in various ways. I would say more often than not, you get compensated in money if you're adding enough value, simply because that's the easiest thing for other people that's the easiest value exchange that we have in our societies. So I think that it's more often than not, you're going to get that value add that way. But even if you don't, it's still fine. That's the big thing, is like, even if you're not getting that value add through money, you're still living a fulfilled life, which is, I think, more important than any money you could get.
100% agree with you on that. I actually just read a book called Life on Air. It's kind of like Millionaire, except Life on Air. Awesome book. And it talks about designing your life first and then design your business around that. So what do you want your life to look like? Then go find a business or a job or whatever that will help you lead that life. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, totally. So his parents, they started out in Trailer Park, Top Robin SpaghettiOs. I don't know the last time y'all went to the store, but I feel like SpaghettiOs are more expensive than healthy food. Like, SpaghettiOs are not the cheap version. Now, Top Ramen, cheap, but SpaghettiOs, I don't feel like it's that inexpensive. Like, I feel like SpaghettiOs are expensive. Anyways, neither here nor there. They started out humble beginnings, but there's a big difference here. And I've talked about this on the show before. I've made Facebook posts about this. They get controversial. That's okay. But I believe personally that poverty is a mental illness, and that poverty is it's more how your brain is working than your physical circumstances and resources. And it's families like yours that prove that, right? That
Right.
they could be in these humble circumstances. They could start in the not so great places, but they were never in poverty mentally, right? They were always striving to get out. They saw something bigger for themselves. There's also people who have lots of money who are hoarders and they live in poverty because their mindset is poor. Their mindset is scarcity. Their mindset is whatever. And yes, they have some skills that makes them money, but they are not contributing to society. They aren't thinking about value. They aren't thinking about growth. They're thinking about fear, scarcity. And you know who it is, and I'm not calling anybody out specifically, but here's the reality. When you walk into a hoarder's house, it doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter what city you're in, what state you're in, what they eat for dinner, they all smell the same. Okay? Hoarders smell the same. It's a frequency. It's like your quantum physical, your energy is vibrating at a certain frequency, and the energy stinks. Okay? Like it has an actual smell to your mindset. Like your mindset, it doesn't just hypothetically stink or theoretically stink. It literally stinks. Poverty stinks. Okay? Yes. And that's not to like put anyone down. It's a mindset shift that we need to talk about. So I loved you sharing that, yeah, that's where you came from, but now your mom is a CFO of Auburn Athletics Department. That's huge. I mean, you can go from a trailer park to being like huge in whatever industry you choose if you choose to work hard and go after it. So I love that. And that's kind of the legacy that was left for him and his family. Now, how many kids were there in your family?
It was me and my sister.
So just two. And are you oldest or youngest?
I am the oldest, yes.
Oldest. How'd your younger sister turn out?
She turned out great. She is a stay-at-home mom now. Awesome. And her husband is a business owner as well. He did a startup straight out of college from Auburn, and they're doing really, really well. So yeah, she's enjoying it, raising her kid, and she actually went through Auburn and got an accounting degree as well. But she liked the. Actually, she hated accounting and went back to school to get her education degree, and she became a teacher for special needs. So she has a heart for people.
Oh, bless her heart.
And now she's a stay-at-home mom. So
yeah, bless her heart. That's so cool though. And the reality is, I think being a stay-at-home mom is like the greatest role that somebody could play.
Good job.
Fine, right? So Cody, if you go back and listen to the episode, something that he said in there, you got to listen to the whole episode for the full context. But I asked him, what is success to him? You know, when does he determine that, yeah, he's on the right path to success? He said, when I'm spending more time with my family than I am with my businesses or with my real estate. That's when I feel like I've become successful, is when my family gets more of my time than anybody else. And I think, man, stay-at-home moms, you've got to figure it out. Your husband, it's unfortunate for your husband. Hopefully you can find a way that he can spend more time with the kids, but like at least you get to spend all that time with the kids. And I love it when I get to see my kids. It's hard to leave the home in the morning. That's another thing I was going to talk to you about. You said your kids get to see what it takes for you to build a business. Are you working from home right now, doing all of this from home?
Absolutely. And when I was CFO of this last company, I actually worked from home then as well. And so what I found myself doing is, while I was running a business and working as CFO, I was working around the clock. I mean, I was working from early in the morning till late at night, but that's what it took. I knew that's what it took. So I did what it took to get me to this point. But we take my kids everywhere. You talk about hoarders. I mean, in the real estate business, I've been in hundreds of houses, and I've been in hoarder houses, and they do all smell the same. They stink. And it's, and that what you said about mindset is the number one thing that separates people from being successful and not successful, in that limited mindset. And people have got to catch on. People with a limited mindset need to have a paradigm shift, and it needs to be towards an abundance mindset. I was telling somebody the other day that I absolutely 100% believe there's an abundance of everything on this earth, and we'll never run out. And some people might think I'm crazy for saying that, but I truly believe that. It's all about mindset and hope. And there's a lack of hope in poverty, and I want to share with people that there is hope, and you should have an abundance mindset. So I'm glad that you're talking about that.
Yeah, I think that's after all, I've interviewed, I don't know how many people at this point, interviewed lots of people, read hundreds, if not reaching the thousands, or at least 1,000 plus books. And then I've been around the country. I sold pest control door to door. I went and served an LDS mission door to door, essentially. And that was in Scotland and Ireland. I've traveled to multiple countries, and every time I've entered, like, it doesn't matter race, culture, food, like what they're eating, everyone smells the same, and it's a poverty mindset. So I'm like, look, yeah, I had a I don't know if I would say argument, but my mom did not appreciate when I said that on Facebook, that that poverty is a mental illness, because she's like, it diminishes everybody else's thing that actually is a mental illness. I'm like, no, here's the reality. And this is also, guys, just so you know, this is Sam being vulnerable-ish, right? I don't really care about it, but when I go hang out with multi-millionaires, people who are very farther, their commitment. See, again, not that money's the scorecard necessarily, but their commitment to developing themselves and becoming more of a creator in their circumstance than I am. Like, let's just separate them that way. When they look at me and my behavior and how I act, they think I'm delusional. They think I'm hallucinating. They think I'm insane. Right? Definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, thinking you're going to get a different result. That's what they think of me when they look at how I operate, because they're like, look, you're never going to get to our level doing what you're doing, Sam. And I'm like, one day I will, right? Because I'm just as stubborn as everybody else is, just at a different level. And we just have to keep surrounding ourselves with more affluent people, or people who are committed to progression more, so that it rubs off on us so we can change our minds. Like three weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I paid for another coach because I want to level up my game. I went from thinking that somebody investing into themselves every month, $500. I went from thinking $500 a month investment to yourself was a lot of money to now thinking like $10,000 is a lot of money, which is like, that's a big gap, right? 500 to 10,000. Well, then my health insurance agent comes in. He's like, hey, here's this other guy who does exactly what you do. And most of his clients, they're putting away about $500,000 a year. And I'm like, they're putting away almost 80 grand. No, 50 grand a month, a little under 40, it's like 45 grand a month that they're saving. And they're doing that consistently. And that's his clientele. And my clientele, I think $5,000 to $10,000 is big. And he's 4 timesing what my expectation is. And I just, over the last 3 weeks, had this mindset change. So you got to think about, like, what's big is all relative. And I'm just as much in poverty mindset compared to those people as some people are to me, right? So I'm not judging anybody for being there, because I'm in the exact same position compared to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's 100%. Crazy. So how did you, like, I don't work well at home. I go to the office because working at home, my wife's too attractive, if you know what I mean. My kids, they're too freaking cute. I struggle telling them no. So, like, how did you manage having, like, a family at home and working at home? I don't understand how you do that.
Well, working from home with an attractive wife around, like, I'm sure you do, and I definitely do. That is an added benefit of working from home.
That's true. You can hit on your assistant.
That's right. It's like, hey, it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime. Hey, we're not talking about that type of. That's just so bad. Okay.
So anyway, honestly, it's not that bad. I have an office. I have my own space. I come to my office and I shut the door. If they need me, they can come in here. If I'm busy, I tell them, don't bother me at the moment. So, at the time when they shut down schools because of the coronavirus, that was a little more difficult. I'll be honest. That was tough. But it was a blessing in disguise, honestly. Having a lot more time with my kids during that time was wonderful. It was a challenge, but very wonderful. And I'm very grateful for that time. But yeah, so I have no problems working from home. I love it. I've done it for a long time. And I like to be able to go make my lunch, and come back to my office, or, if I want to, leave in the middle of the day and then come back and work later, I can do that as well.
So have you found a way, what's your strategy? Again, I'm asking this because I just don't know. I struggle with separating work from home, work from home. So how do you say, look, I'm shutting off, I'm shutting my phone down, whatever you have to do. How do you say, look, this is only family time? In the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, he describes it as you have to divorce your work, you have to divorce your family when you're at work, and divorce your work when you're with your family. And this concept, I struggle with it. I mean, I try. I'm not saying I don't try. I get better. I have some weeks that are really good and other weeks that just are terrible. But how do you separate that?
It is definitely a challenge and a struggle, and it's not one I'm an expert at. So I'll start with that. But my wife is in the business with me. I have my kids involved in the business with me. If we're going to flip a house, they'll come to the house with me. I'll have them help clean up or something. So I keep them involved. So we do that as a family, which I really enjoy. And I know not everybody can do that in their type business, but that's one way. The way my wife is, she's a great wife. I think behind every great man is an even better wife. That's the way I look at it. She keeps me grounded. She keeps me in check. She'll say, hey, you need to turn it off or something, and I'll try. And I still struggle with it. It's hard to do. But I try to, especially at dinner, try not to be on my phone at all. I try to put it away and not look at it while we're at dinner. That's family time, 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm actually getting ready to go on my first vacation in a while. The last few vacations I went on, I worked during my vacation because I had 2 jobs, right? I had my own business, and then I had the CFO job. So I'm super excited. We're getting ready to go here in a little while, and in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to turn off my phone. It'll be the first time I've been able to do that.
You text me and tell me how that goes, because I've made that commitment to myself sometimes, multiple times, and it always comes back on. So I want you to text me after you're done and say, I was successful, no work during this vacation. Yeah. Well,
actually, some of my competitors, I've reached out to them and said, hey, I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to have you handle my customers. And that's for me a leap of faith. I'm going to send some of my people to a competitor, and I don't really look at in my business. I don't look at really as competition. We're really good at collaborating in our industry in this market. But it's people I know and I trust, and I say, hey, when I've got someone who wants to sell their house, I'm going to need you to handle that for me, and I'll compensate them for that. So
yeah, well,
I am going to try to let my team do their job.
Yeah, dude, that's the struggle of an entrepreneur right there. It's relieving control. How many CPAs do you know that are working for bigger companies, big things, that aren't working 80 hours a week? I feel like that's pretty common in the CPA world, especially if you're working in the corporate side of being a CPA, right. Not a public accountant where you're just helping families, but where you're business to business, or you're working inside the corporation.
Well, so there's a lot of different things you can do as a CPA. So if you're in a tax accountant at a public firm, then they're probably working minimum 55 minimum plus hours during probably a month and a half leading up to the tax deadlines. And there's one in September, October timeframe, and then there's also one in April. So, and then the rest of the year, they may put in 30, 40 hours in a week, depending on your level. Now, if you're higher up, you probably have more.
Sure.
But yeah, and then as an auditor, you might have a big client that has to have their audit done, and there is a season for that as well, and you may have to work more. If you're corporate, you have deadlines as well. You have quarterly reports that are due, and you have monthly reports that are due. And, so it depends on how quickly your company wants to close their books every month. So if they want a 5-day close, you're probably going to have an 80-hour week once a month, so, or maybe not 80. It just depends. I mean, it all is really relative, but
Sure.
I would say CPAs do work hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into this seller financing. So I grew up playing the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. So I got like moderate levels of reading income statements. But when you're saying go buy a business, what's the level of involvement that somebody would need to be in to be purchasing that business? Like, because I've thought about it sometimes. Like, what if I just go buy a business, have everybody stay working there? And I mean, especially in the baby boomer generation, if I didn't know those statistics, that got me excited a little.
Yeah, it
because
should.
Most of those baby boomer businesses, they have not touched, and if they've touched it, it's like barely scraped the surface of social media. They've barely scraped the surface of advertising in general. They're still mom and pop shops as a general. Even if you're like a statewide service, I mean, like I have a brother who. He went in up in Idaho. He bought a company for, I don't know, I think it was $400,000 is what they bought it for. Seller finance, so they didn't really have to put hardly anything down. They just pay which I want to talk about that from a tax perspective. Why is that an advantageous thing for a seller to do? Like a lot of people think, why would a seller want to seller finance? There's it's part of the sales pitch. There's a reason why you would pitch that to them.
Absolutely.
And then just with restructuring and bringing all the costs current to the industry, they were able to 4 times the income on that business just by bringing costs current to industry standard. And then with a little bit of marketing, within 3 years, they'll turn that business from being worth $400,000, they're planning by the end of, who knows, when it actually happens with COVID. But they want it, before they even consider anything else, they want it to be about 10 million. So it's like, to be able to increase the value of a company that much just by making small tweaks, because they aren't doing anything different really operationally from what the guy was doing before. It's just making the small tweaks that they're younger. This guy was 77, I think, wanted out. And they were going to come in and revitalize this thing by just bringing it current and advertise a little. The guy wasn't advertising.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, you really don't have to do a whole lot. And these baby boomers, right? They're one of the greatest generations of all time. Okay. And a lot of them have built awesome businesses, but when they get to that 70, like you said, it was 77. When you get to 77, I mean, you're pretty tired, you're starting to run out of gas. They don't want to do it anymore. So that business, while it's the business is going up and up and up, and then they get older like that, and it may start to tail off a little bit, but you just go in there and put some new life back into it, shine it up, reduce some of your costs, start advertising on, Google and Facebook and stuff like that. Little things that you can change and to increase your bottom line and make the company instantly more profitable. So, it's a big deal. And if you can grow, I was reading a book this morning by a guy named Walker Dybel. And in his book, he said that if you grow your business at 10% every year, in 7 years, you can double the size of your business. And I just thought that was an interesting statistic. So buying a business is an amazing way to grow your wealth. I've heard a lot of people say, well, real estate is the best way. And I would say I mostly agree with that, depending on your skill set, right? Not everybody's cut out to own a business. Okay.
I think everybody says their way is the best way. It's like, we built doing real estate than anything else. I'm like, no, I don't think that's not really remotely true when you look at the history. Now, I think that you could make an argument that more millionaires store their wealth in real estate, That I think is an accurate statement. But you think Vanderbilt's had real estate or they have a business? And they're like, no, well, they had the train. Like, okay, so they own this little sliver of land all the way across America, and that's their real estate. The only reason their real estate was worth anything is because they put a freaking train on it.
Yep.
The Rockefellers, what was their real estate? Oil wells. Okay, you're going to call that real estate? No, that's not what most people think of when you say real estate. Now, you could say it's real estate, but it's an oil well, an oil refinery. It was their business. So the wealthiest people on the planet, they own businesses and they built their wealth in businesses. Now, their trusts own tons of real estate. Absolutely, right? There's no question about whether they have real estate. But I don't think they
absolutely
built the most people in real estate.
No, that's right. I mean, take your excess cash and park it somewhere safe, like real estate. Think about real estate. It's you've got something that's backing it up. It's kind of like gold. I know I think Robert Kiyosaki preaches that, have a business, have real estate, and have gold. That's his three
precious metals. He gets more silver than he does gold, but
really?
Same difference.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's spot on there.
Yeah. So let's describe a little bit. Why would a seller of a business want seller financing versus a straight buyout? Like of a small business, right? If you're talking Qualtrics or like Vivint Solar, like these massive companies that are selling out for billions of dollars, okay? The reality is even those often are structured payouts. They're not all just one lump sum.
That's right.
It's going to be a lot more common with this baby boomer cell type business acquisition that they're going to want at least a 5, if not 10, 15 year, depending on how long they think they're going to live, payout seller finance. So why would they agree to something like that?
Right. I think the biggest advantage is if they're getting paid out all in one lump sum, they're going to have a bunch of tax hit them all at once. But if they spread it out, they can reduce their taxes, and they create an annuity, and it's right. So this 77-year-old guy's like, hey, I want to, finance this, finance it for, 10 years. He's like, well, I may be dead by I'm 87. Well, you may not, and you may, but you're at least you're getting an income every year, and it's steady. And so those are the big advantages in my mind. Was there anyone in particular that you were thinking of over those?
No, I think that's it. I think people need to understand it comes down to taxation. People are not aware of how incredibly good the government is at raping you. Like they just don't understand it. Right. And so they're like, oh, this is normal. Everybody gets raped. And it's like, no. Like there's a big hullabaloo right now about Trump who doesn't pay taxes, and it's not because he's unethical, it's because he understands the laws. Right. And so then you see the one guy who understands the laws and isn't getting raped by the government, and you're like, oh, he's bad and wrong because he's letting us all suffer. No, you're the idiot. Excuse my language, whatever. You're the guy who didn't go get educated. It's not Trump's fault that you didn't get educated. And guess what? Trump's not the only one. Everybody on the other side of the aisle, they're all doing the same stuff. And any good business person doing the same stuff. So I don't know how much you know about this, but I'm going to ask anyways. What's the advantages? Because again, I'm all about a win-win for everybody. I want that business owner to have as much money as they possibly can out of the sale of their business, right? I don't want them to have to pay any to the government if they can avoid it. I'm all about paying taxes. I don't want to be in police service. I don't want to be in military service. I definitely don't want to do sewage. Don't want to build roads. So I'm all for paying taxes, guys. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to pay a penny more than I have to. Right. That's me. So when you're going to present this, what's the benefit of using trusts to helping them sell their business to you by saying, hey, assign the business to a trust, like a charitable remainder trust or a charitable leads trust, and say, hey, look, if you do this, what's the tax advantages of those vehicles?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in that area, but I have heard that there's ways for you to transfer the equity in your business over a period of time using the gift tax exclusions, where you transfer a little piece out to where, like, if you're married, you can the husband and the wife can transfer out each whatever the max is, the gift exclusion amount is. last time I remember doing taxes, it was probably like 10 or 11,000. I don't even know what it is now,
Yeah,
but
it's not much.
yeah, but you can each parent can do that for each kid, and you can transfer that much in value over to your children over time to help do a tax-free transfer to your kids and avoid the death tax, which I hope they get rid of the death tax at some point, but who knows?
Yeah. For all you listening, maybe you didn't know that there was a tax for dying. The good news is you don't have to worry about it. But your family does. So you'll be dead. So that's the good news. Yeah, it's just so crazy that the ways that the government's going to take money from you from every little aspect of your life. So you need a solid CPA. You need a coach to go in. Don't try and just go in and buy a business because you listen to this podcast. Call somebody. My advice, not advice. I don't give advice on this podcast. I never said that word. But I think it's beneficial in my life. I've learned that having a coach is there's nothing better than having a coach, right? They can change your mindset. They can coach you through all the pitfalls so you don't walk through it yourself. It's like a hunter's guide, anything like that. But tell us if they wanted to get in touch with you and see if they would be a good fit for you to coach them, what would that look like? Where would they find you? Like, yeah, go ahead and share a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is thebusinessminer.com, and it's still a work in process. I've got I'm a big believer, and I learned this from your last guest, Cody Hoffhine, progress, not perfection. Okay. So just get out there and just get it out there and just do it. Okay. Because perfection will kill all deals. Okay. So just get out there and take massive imperfect action is one. So I've done that. I've got a website, and I'm having a really slick one built in the background, but I've got this one facing forward. You can schedule a call with me on that at thebusinessminer.com. And if you go to thebusinessminer.com/legacy, the recording of this podcast will be out there, and it will also contain some freebies. So you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me, or there's also a link in there for a free letter of intent template. But yeah, get in touch with me. I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Philip Arthers. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more about buying a small business, the modern day gold rush, get in touch with me. We'll talk through some things. I'll ask you a series of questions to see how ready you are. And if you're not ready, I'm going to be honest with you and say you're not ready. I'm not going to be able to coach you this time, but I can give you some things. Hey, do these 5 or 10 things and then come see me in a year. And I think you'll be ready. So, because you do not want to jump into this journey without having some guidance and being somewhat prepared. But yeah, so at the Business Miner coaching program, we're helping entrepreneurs. We're helping everyone become entrepreneurs that everyone admires and respects. So
yeah, I love that. So just so you guys know, like this is the subliminal things that are make a business run, and his messaging and his branding, they're on point, right? So you can't see his little image here, but it's like him with a prospecting axe, a jewel, looks like an emerald jewel. And
it's actually a wad of cash.
Oh, it's a wad of cash. Well, either way, money, either way. But then it's about being a miner, but then he's talking about his profession as the modern day gold rush. Okay. Like that's continuity across the brand and across the messaging. So think about that when you're thinking, oh, well, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? How do I want to present myself to the world? It doesn't matter if you're a parent, if you're an artist, if you just sit at home and watch Netflix, it doesn't matter. How are you presenting your message of who you are? And is there continuity? I love that. So that's incredible. He also has a podcast. What's the podcast called again?
The podcast is the Business Miner Podcast, and it is going to release probably January 2020 is my guess. So awesome. 2021, either December 2020 or January 2021. So it's not yet released. I am in the process of recording that, but it will be out very soon.
Cool, man. Hey, I love it. Podcasts are incredible. I love them. So we're going to skip ahead to the next section, which is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. There's 5 questions, 1-word answers, and that starts now. So Legacy on Rapid Fire. Here we go. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
What is holding me back? All right. I'd say that more people. I'm looking for more people to join my team. And I'm a big believer, and you mentioned Trump earlier. Trump's success in life has been from putting people around him that are smarter than him. And that's how I believe. You got to have people that are smarter than you around you. Trump has awesome attorneys, awesome tax advisors, and that's a big reason why he doesn't pay much tax. So, honestly, Samuel, I don't believe there's anything holding me back. That's the best answer I could give you. I need more people. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm entrepreneurial minded. If you ever read the book, The E-Myth, you got to have the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. I can be all 3, but I don't enjoy being the manager and I don't enjoy being the technician. So I need more managers and technicians around me to help me move into the next.
Awesome. Great answer there with great insight. And what is the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
The CPA exam was that was in the top there. That was so incredibly hard. I passed all 4 sections the first time, thank goodness. But yeah, that was pretty hard. But I don't know. Probably turning around that company that I was working for as a CFO. They were a client right at first, and we came up with this plan. They hired me as CFO to enact that plan, and that was probably the hardest thing because the company was headed towards bankruptcy, and we steered it out of bankruptcy and we grew it into something huge, and then sold to another company here recently. So anyway, those are probably the 2 I'd say the hardest things.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what do you think the greatest success at this point in your life has been?
Finding a good wife.
There you go. Agree with that. And what's like one secret you believe contributes most to your success?
I am not afraid to talk to people. And that coupled with my mindset of abundance, that abundance mindset has really been a huge contributor to my success because I'm willing to get uncomfortable having conversations with people and asking for what I want. Actually interviewed a guy the other day for my podcast, and he said that was his biggest thing is asking, and I'm a believer in a Christian, and the Bible says you have not because you've asked not. So get out there and ask the question. You never know. If you want to buy a business, talk to every single person you come in contact with that, I'm actually looking to buy a business, and tell them what you want. Know what you want your life to look like, and then decide, okay, well, this is the kind of business I need to have. So, if you want to have a ton of extra time, try to find a business that's doing over $1 million in revenue and that can pay you a good salary and that's already good management in place. But tell everybody that's what I'm looking for. Because you'll never know. I mean, I met a guy at the ball field. I've known him for years, coaching baseball, and never knew that he was an entrepreneur. And he's a good friend of mine now. And it's just opening your mouth and telling people what you want.
Yeah, love that. So, what's a book that you would recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Well, I've mentioned a few here. The Atomic Habits is a huge, just for being better and having good habits and getting rid of the bad habits. The Atomic Habits is all about little small changes, and I know Cody mentioned on the episode you did with him, compound effect. I was going to say that one, but he'd already mentioned it. but they're very similar. But Atomic Habits is about making little tiny habit changes and tracking them. I have a habit tracker. It's sitting right here. Read Bible, pray, meditate, read 10 pages. I try to read 10 pages of a book every day. Readers are leaders, and there's a common thread between all successful people as their readers. You mentioned you read how many books? Was it 1,000?
I don't know. I use Audible because reading is tough for me, but yeah, I use Audible, and I don't even know. I used to be reading a book a week. I did a book a week for like 3 years, and then I've still done. I mean, before that and after that, it was at least 1 or 2 a month. But
do you read on double speed?
2.5. Double speed is slow.
I read at least two, if not higher. There's sometimes I'll put it on 3, and it's hard. It's crazy how much you can actually retain. I actually retain better when it's faster.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is your brain processes like 580 words a minute or something.
Right.
But you only can speak, like the average person speaks, only about 70 words per minute. And so all that extra words per minute, whether your brain is having intake of that 570 words extra, whether it's having intake, if it's not having intake and you're not consciously creating it, then you have to think about, wow, that's 500 words a minute of just negative crap that I'm telling myself, or at least if not negative, at least unintentional crap that your dialogue is going on, and you're only speaking maybe 70 words per minute. I probably speak a lot more because I talk like a freaking freight train. But point being, it's not that much more. It's not like just because I maybe say 120 words rather than 70 in relation to 500 that's being processed, it's still negligible. Like it's not that big. And so, yeah, I think if you can get the stuff in faster, your subconscious is going to process that a lot better than if you listen to it slowly.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. And because I actually tried the other day, I put it on speed of 1. And when I did that, I was like, man, I can't comprehend. My brain starts to wander. My attention span is not held. But if I put on like 2 or 3, I get it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Also, if it's on 2 or 3, for me, I can't be doing anything else. Like I can be driving because that's basically a mindless activity.
Yeah.
Don't shoot me for that if you pass me on the road. But yeah, if it's like a situation where I've got to be taking care of kids or multitasking, making my sandwich, whatever, I can't. I got to be focused. So.
Absolutely. Jim Rohn says you're the 5 people. I mean, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I think part of that, especially as being a parent of small children, I'm spending most of my time around my wife and kids, but reading is my way to rub shoulders with some of the smartest people in the world.
Yep.
I'm getting into their brain, how they think, and their logic in life, and it's broadening horizons. So I think that's probably it's probably the best thing to do if you want to be successful. Read as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, love it. Cool. So here's the final question. This is my favorite question. This is why I do the whole episode and everything, is really to get this question answered. But we're going to pretend that you died. It's now 6 generations from now. So this is your great grandchildren. They're sitting around a table discussing your life, what happened, what you accomplished, what meaning did you give to the world and to them. What do you want your great grandchildren to be saying about you 6 generations from now?
I would want them to say that I was a humble person who liked to serve others and helped everybody. That, I have a big heart. I love to help people. And, I want to be known for having that abundance mindset, like you mentioned. That's a really interesting question because, I'm trying to picturing myself, in a casket or something eulogy type thing. Right. And, my wife and I started a foundation, the Housing Hope Foundation. We help widows and those with special needs by putting roofs on their houses for free. And then there's some other things we do too. Like recently we helped clean this lady's house. We put in new stairs on her deck because it was really shaky. She was blind, and the stairs on her deck were very unsafe. There was vines growing all over the house and into the house. So I want to be known as a philanthropist, someone who gave back to people and showed the love of Christ to people. I really want to be known for that, for sure.
I love that. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. Again, if you guys are listening, you want to find out, hey, what would it look like to own a business? Is there something out there for me? There's probably something out there for you. Just so you know, like, it doesn't matter what your personality is, what gets you up in the morning, whatever it is, there's something there for you. And go ahead and share that or say that website again that they can go to specifically to get.
Sure, yeah. It's the Business Miner, and that's ER, Business Miner, thebusinessminer.com. And if you want to get the free letter of intent template, you can go to thebusinessminer.com/legacy.
Awesome. Hey, I love it. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Samuel.
Next time on the Fuel Your Legacy Show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.